So now let's talk about what a framework is. So basically what a framework is a collection of code that's been brought together in order to be able to provide a certain solution for the programming language that you're going to be using. So whether you're using Python or JavaScript or PHP, basically somebody figured out how to do something really cool with those languages a while ago, and the thing that we like to do as programmers the most is copy and paste, right? If somebody else reinvented the wheel, the last thing that we want to do is invent our own wheels. We just want to copy and paste what they previously did and then go from there. So with a lot of languages, such as Python, you can do a lot of interesting things, such as you can create web applications with Python, or you can actually create desktop applications with Python. The issue is it takes a lot of code to make that happen. So basically what you can do is you can import a framework into your Python code. So instead of reinventing the wheel on how to build a web application, you simply import, again, we use the Bottle web app framework for a lot of things that we do here at Silicon Dojo, but you can import Bottle, you can import something called Django, you can import Flask, Fast API. There's a whole bunch of different frameworks that allow you to create web applications with Python. You can import one of those that works best for you, and then from that point, that allows you to build a web application relatively easily. If you want to create a desktop application, so with Python, you can actually create a desktop application where you can right-click and left-click. It's got buttons and the whole 9 yards, right? Well, what you can do is you can import a framework called tkinter to allow you to do that, and it basically makes your life a lot easier. You'll hear of frameworks such as React. So React is a JavaScript framework, and what that allows you to do is it allows you to build user interfaces really easily. Again, think about this. If you actually had to deal with HTML and CSS, it can be tedious. CSS is not hard by any stretch of the imagination. It is tedious as hell though, right? There's so many things that you can do with CSS. It's just right? And so basically with something like the React framework, they've already figured out most of the stuff that you're going to want to do in order to create your little user interface. So basically you can use the React framework to be able to create JavaScript user interfaces a lot faster and make it look a lot more professional and how people think it should. So basically all the framework does is it extends upon the functionality of the core programming language that you're using to make developing a lot easier. Now, one of the warnings I will give you, warning, Will Robinson, is do not downplay how difficult it is to learn some of these frameworks. So it was interesting, again, doing a lot of classes for Silicon Dojo. I decided to use Python as our core programming language for the classes that we do. And then on top of that, I was just going to, quickly learn some frameworks to show you folks how to be able to do certain things. One of the things that I found interesting, let's just say, is that some frameworks are literally more difficult to learn than the core programming language itself. Python, you can learn Python and you can learn the basics of Python in 10 hours. To be honest with you, to actually start building something in Python, you can probably learn it in 10 hours and 40 hours. You should be pretty fine, no big deal. I was learning the Django. So there's a web app framework called Django that allows you to create web applications with Python. And oh my golly, oh my God, it was painful. It was so painful. Like the framework has so many things included and so many settings and so many configurations. And if you do anything wrong, nothing works properly. I am telling you, learning Python was dirt simple. I could do it half hungover in my sleep. Learning Django, just a brutal pain in the butt. So one thing to consider, especially as a new coder, if you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out what frameworks you're going to be using for whatever product that you're going to develop, is just be careful of underestimating the time required to get up to speed with a framework. It's very easy to think, oh, learning the programming language, again, JavaScript or Python or whatever else, that's going to be the difficult part. And then, you just toss the framework on top. You just toss it on top. Yeah, yeah. It's very easy to think that, and then you get in the real world and really learn some misery. So do just realize with some of these frameworks, there is a lot that goes into it. So when you're planning for building out your project, just make sure you do the research. So especially if you're new, you make sure you give yourself enough time to get up to speed with a framework. So now that you know what a framework is, let's go over to the computer so I can demonstrate how using these different frameworks can really add a lot of value to your projects. So here we are at my computer, and this is just a very simple Python script here, right? So we have a message. That message is hello world, and we are going to print it to the screen. Again, no real big deal here. I'm going to hit run, and we are going to see I say hello world. But here's the thing. Again, how useful is this? Okay, I say hello world, but it's at the command line. It kind of looks ugly. That's not really what I want to present to my end users. So if we go over here, I'm going to be using the Bottle Web App Framework. So what the Bottle Web App Framework allows is it allows you to actually build web applications with Python, and you can then deploy those wherever you want, right? So here, I'm not going to go into it a lot, but basically I'm importing the module called Bottle, this framework. I'm importing some functions. I create a route, basically just to the root for my web application, and I'm going to return hello world. So I'm going to have a web application that's going to say hello world in H1 tags. I'm going to run this at host 127.0.0.1 and port TCP 8080. All of this stuff I will talk about in other classes. I will then hit the run button, and what we're going to see here, it says listening on HTTP 127.0.0.1:8080. So if I click on this, look at that. I get hello world in an actual web browser. So 127.0.0.1, 8080, and that's hello world, right? So if I want to use Python in order to build a web application, I will then use the Bottle Web App Framework. Again, lots of other frameworks out there that you may prefer. Other than that, if we close this out, we can also go take a look at tkinter, right? So basically what tkinter is this is a framework that allows you to build desktop applications. So GUI desktop applications, left click, right click, the whole 9 yards. We're going to import tkinter here. We're going to create a window that's going to be 300 by 100 pixels. The title is going to be the Hello World app, just some basic stuff here. Let me shrink this down a little bit so this actually pops up when I hit run. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to click run, and then look at that. Ooh, look at that. I've got a hello world little, GUI app for my Mac here. So that shows you how with Python you can do something basically just at the command line. You can do something that will create a web application, or you can do something that would create a GUI, a desktop GUI application like this with tkinter. Now, if you're wondering how many frameworks there are for you to pick from, a lot, right? Simply going here and saying popular frameworks on Google, you see Django, as I talked about, Ruby on Rails, Angular, Laravel, you probably heard about, Express.js, Flask, as we talked about, Svelte. Svelte is something the cool kids currently seem to be using, Cake PHP, Gatsby. Just so many different frameworks out there. So this is something to be thinking about. Again, like if you want to do things such as add computer vision to your Python application. So one of the things that we teach you at Silicon Dojo is something called OpenCV. So Open Computer Vision is actually a framework that allows you to use Python to add computer vision to your code. So that's a type of framework you can use. There's something called OLLAMA. So OLLAMA is a framework that allows you to add AI, so artificial intelligence, to your Python code. So one of the things to be thinking about whenever you're going to be developing your applications is ask yourself, are you really going to be writing that in Python or JavaScript or whatever else? Or are you going to need to import a framework that will allow you to easily get the functionality that you're looking for? Many times, especially once you start creating more complicated applications, the frameworks are going to be just as important to you as the underlying coding language itself. So that's the basic idea of what frameworks are and how you'll be using them when you develop whatever projects you are with the coding language. Now, I know the question that you're going to ask, because everybody asks the question, Eli, what framework do I need to learn? Or what's the best framework? Blase, blase, blase. Here's the deal. As I kind of showed you, there are a ton of frameworks. There is a metric ton of frameworks out there. So depending on what you're trying to do, you will have to pick the framework that's best for your particular solution. So again, even with Python, right? There are a number of different frameworks that allow you to create web applications with Python. There's Django, there's Flask, there's Fast API, and there's what we use here a lot at Silicon Dojo called Bottle. Why Django is amazing, I have no snark for Django, is because it gives you everything including the kitchen sink. Instagram was originally built on Django, and the idea is that when you develop with the Django framework, all the components that you need are already included. You need a user management system, it's already included. You need a connection to a database, it's already included. Again, a lot of the other stuff will go into other classes. It's already included in Django. It is basically everything, including the kitchen sink, plus a couple of other utensils that you might enjoy. Now you might say, well, if Django was so amazing, why do we use Bottle for Silicon Dojo? And it's because, you know, the more functionality something has, the more complicated it is to learn. Django is absolutely awesome, but trying to teach it's a pain in the butt. There's just so much going on with Django, right? So that's one of the reasons we don't teach a lot of Django here. We focus on Bottle. Again, if you're going to be doing something such as creating an API, we'll talk about APIs in other classes, basically where you create a service on the internet that other computers are going to be communicating with. Well, there is a web app framework for Python called Fast API that is specifically designed to be, wait for it, fast, right? So if you're going to put an API out for other people to use, maybe get information out of a database, you have something like that, Fast API might be the best thing for you because it's literally been designed to be as fast as possible. Why we use the Bottle web app framework here for Silicon Dojo is because it's pretty darn simple, right? I actually showed you like everything that you need in order to create a small little web app in the code, right? You create what's called a route, you create a function, you do the run, and your web app works. Oh my God, I'm not having to go into a whole hell of a lot of weeds to try to teach you folks the concepts there. And again, so one thing for me with Silicon Dojo, one of our core tenets here is that I try to break down the concept so that we're focusing on specific concepts so people don't get too lost at least. And so by using the Bottle Web App Framework, one, you can use it in production. It is stable, it is robust, it is fine for the most part, right? But again, it's simple. So when I sit down to teach you, I can focus on teaching you how routing works in a web application versus again, getting lost in the weeds with Django, that type of thing. So again, that's one of the things you're going to need to be thinking about with these frameworks is you're going to have to go out there and for your specific instance, you're going to have to figure out the one that works best for you. Realistically, the way that you're going to pick frameworks is you're going to get a job and then your company is already going to be using frameworks, and so ergo, you're going to be using the legacy frameworks the company decided on 5 years ago. That's honestly what happens a lot. Beyond that, again, you can go to meetups and you can go to events and you can talk to other coders to see what frameworks they're using and see why they like the framework or why they don't like the framework, and then again, go from there and play around with things. I will warn you though, with these frameworks, it's just like choosing a programming language or an operating system if you work in an organization. So let's say right now, you're a desktop support engineer or you're a junior level admin or a senior level admin in your organization, and you're learning how to code because you want to build something, right? You want to build an inventory control system or maybe a better help desk system or something like that. And so that's one of the reasons you're taking this particular class. One of the things I will warn you about with frameworks is make sure your organization has the institutional knowledge to support the framework once you've left the company. So I talk about this a lot in different classes with the technology that you're going to pick. Is basically when you decide to pick a technology and you deploy it into your environment, it's necessary not that simply you know how to maintain and manage that technology, but also once you leave the company, that other people know how to maintain and manage that technology. As I've talked about with operating systems, if you decide to use Linux, which is a great operating system, pick a flavor. I don't care what the damn flavor is, just pick one and then stick with it, right? If you like Ubuntu, all your servers run Ubuntu. If you like CentOS for some reason, all your servers run CentOS. And the reason is because if you have some Ubuntu machines over here and some Red Hat machines over here and some Arch machines over here and some Mint machines over here, you know, your poor admin's gonna sit down and like, crap. Oh, what's the command on this particular type of server? And again, especially if you're doing something like Linux, it shouldn't be that complicated, right? That's why you want to create standardization. Again, one of the interesting things with frameworks now, there are so many frameworks out there. There's so many frameworks that are being created. And so one of the problems you can run into is if you want to be one of the cool kids, if you start deploying all kinds of different frameworks into your environment based off of what seems good literally today. The issue is when you leave the company, again, you may have 5 different frameworks and then somebody else has to come up and clean up behind you. Again, like with the web app framework, if you have Django and Fast API and Flask and Bottle and something else all running in your environment, you may know that. You may be able to support that fine, perfectly. But then the next person is going to come in and that's going to be an utter nightmare. So that would be one of my warnings with the frameworks, just like with any other technology you're going to deploy into your infrastructure, is find the framework that solves the problem that you have the most institutional knowledge about or can get the other technicians up to speed before you deploy it. Otherwise, go out there and play and see what works for you.